Welcome to the SVG-TV news for today, Tuesday, February 22nd. With the details, I'm Khalil Cato. A 92-year-old female with underlying conditions is this country's latest recorded COVID-19 death. The Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment update said the patient tested positive for COVID-19 on February 11th and was admitted to the isolation ward at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. She died yesterday of COVID-19 pneumonia. She was unvaccinated. Her death brings the death toll from COVID-19 to 106. 4 new rapid antigen cases were recorded for the reporting period, with 2 new recoveries. 61 cases are now active, with 3 persons being hospitalized, all said to be unvaccinated. To date, 67,174 COVID-19 vaccines have been administered island-wide. With the need to increase the island's vaccination rate, infectious disease specialist Dr. Gerald Thompson said that the younger generation is seen as the ambassadors to drive the program. In a recent interview with SVG-TV News, Dr. Thompson said that it is about time the young people take the lead.
I want to make an appeal to our young people, especially those anywhere from 12 to 20 years old, 25 years old. They're the ones who I think have to help drive this process. They understand, and they may be less vulnerable in that regard, but they are also educators in one sense. They'll be able to go home, speak to their parents, speak to friends, and it's my hope that we will see a continued steady and greater uptake in relation to vaccination and the protection of our people.
The most recent data shows that 30% of the population has been fully vaccinated. 53,000 received the first dose, 29,037 received the second dose, and 3,011 have taken the booster shot. The average doses administered daily is 176 persons, and at that rate, it will take another 4 months to vaccinate another 10% of the population. Dr. Thompson says it is important that the island gets the vaccination numbers up.
Well, I think that we have a high level of hesitancy. I think that there's intrusion from a lot of right-wing sources, and the persons have been able to pick up on it, and a lot of superstitions and so have come into play. But I think the campaign is about to step up. How do we get people fully back to work and engaged culturally, and so cultural artists and so haven't been able to do that much, in terms of entertainment. Other people, how do we get people worshiping again in terms of fellowship? I know they do online, but how do we get people to have true fellowship again? And I think that this desire is going to induce people to go forward with the vaccination rate on a steady basis.
Dr. Thompson noted that SVG does not have many restrictions like other countries, and that the current guidelines in place must be used as safeguards. New COVID-19 infections on island are observed to be dropping steadily, with 61 active cases up to news time. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves says that investors in Dubai are interested in what St. Vincent and the Grenadines has to offer. On radio on Sunday, he said that hotel development was one of the main areas promoted at the Dubai Expo 2020, and that the new city of Arnesvale was also pitched to the investors.
And I was talking about the city, and also for the hotel development, private sector people who are interested in doing further hotel development. But with the city, that's a big one, and you have to get a group large enough to partner with the government to deal with the city as we build it out. The hospital in July, when we go to the board in July of the World Bank, I expect us to get the approval there for the 60 million, but I want to make sure that we have the other 20 million lined up. And I feel pretty sure that by then we'll have the 20 million lined up, nail it down.
PM Gonsalves said that his government continues to look at other investment opportunities for SVG.
The discussions which I have had with serious investors, different groups of them, in the matter of hotels development, also the matter of the city. I think they have been very promising. Of course, persons have to come and take with it, see with their own eyes what's happening, and details have to be dealt with. And we are also looking at other countries. In fact, another country from the Middle East, which came to visit us in St. Vincent while I was away. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there, but the acting Prime Minister, Montgomery Daniel, and the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Agriculture, held discussions with them relating to other forms of investment.
The Prime Minister was in Dubai for SVG's National Day at Dubai Expo 2020 on February 14th. Also on Radio on Sunday, Prime Minister Gonzalez said that Vincimas 2022 is still not guaranteed. However, persons should still prepare.
I said to them, make your arrangements. I can't give a guarantee. Nobody can give a guarantee because we don't know. We have seen the fluidity. We have seen the fluidity of the COVID. But one thing you can say with reasonable certainty, that the more people who take the vaccine, the more likely that you will have a pre-COVID type carnival.
The Prime Minister reiterated that there has to be a balance, noting that we are still in a pandemic.
Because the alternative would be, Lansford, is to say, okay, we're going to have carnival. Come hell or high water. And we open the gates where those who are vaccinated and those who aren't vaccinated are mingling. And afterwards, you have a spike, which overwhelms the health service, and a number of persons get very sick, and more people die, and so on. The question would be, did the carnival worth it?
PM Gonzalez added that while some persons are for carnival, others are against it. However, he noted that the country needs to go back to normal time.
There are many things, when I use normalcy here, I don't mean that we have a situation which was pre-COVID where everything normal was good, because we know that not to be the case. Otherwise, we wouldn't be trying to change them for the better. But when I use it normal, I mean the pre-COVID time.
Deputy Prime Minister and MP for North Windward, Montgomery Daniel, says that things are being put in place for the importation of 3 Bailey bridges in the constituency. Speaking on radio last week, Minister Daniel said Bailey bridges will be placed at river crossings in Overland, Noel, and London by August.
There are engineers on the ground who are doing the preliminary work. That is to get the technical things going. Mm-hmm. While the Ministry of Transport and Works in itself continue to have discussions with the Ministry of Finance for the importation of 3 Bailey bridges. Of course, under the VEEP project that resides in the Ministry of Finance, that the funds are available. Mm-hmm. And that the technical people in the Ministry of Transport and Works have to ensure that the technical work is done, the specifications that are required is put in place, and so to have the Bailey bridges ordered. My understanding is that the preliminary work is almost complete, right, and that the Bailey bridges should be placed on order very soon.
Minister Daniel said that the bridges are expected to address the issues of stranded pedestrians and motorists when these rivers are in flow as a result of heavy rains.
So that we will reduce or possibly eliminate the difficulty in access when we have rains in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and to reduce that difficulty has been experienced from time to time. I want to give the assurance to the commuters north of the river. The bridges are being worked on by the Ministry of Transport and Works, that is the Bailey bridges, are being worked on. And I promise you that understanding the requirements of what is required by the engineers, that I'm told that we can have the bridges established and be put in place by the end of August.
The MP further noted that through a project by the Caribbean Development Bank, the CDB, consultancy work is being done on permanent bridges at some of these areas north of the Dry River. Minister Daniel said of the 21 river crossings in North Windward, at least 8 will be tackled by the government by the end of this year.
From the entrance of the constituency of North Windward, from Caratal northwards, there are some 21 river crossings from Caratal up to as far as Fancy. We have done Caratal, we have done Basin Hole Bridge, we have done Miss Jane, we have done Rabaka, we have done some work at the Warabisi Bridge, that is the bridge at Orange Hill. We are now tackling Overland, Noel, and London, so that by the end of this year, basically, it will be safe to say that we would have tackled 8 of the 21 river crossings that's been established geographically north of the Caratal Bridge.
Opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday claims the government has made a reckless decision in regards to the Richmond Quarry project. Airing his views on the project on the NDP's New Times radio program, Dr. Friday described the government's approval of the project and the seemingly lack of consideration for the affected residents as downright reckless.
You can't just say, oh, you send somebody down to dive and see where the coral are down there and then come back and say the government says it's okay. That is not an environmental impact study. It's one of the most sensitive ecosystems on the planet. One that is so sensitive that it's being protected worldwide. This is why I hope that this matter will gain international and regional attention to show how reckless this government can be when they espouse all these progressive ideas, and here they have a project that simply because the funding doesn't require it, because you have a private developer doing the funding himself, apparently. You don't have to use best practices anymore. You can go and rush ahead, cut the landscape within a matter of a week or 3.
The opposition leader said the government is going about the project the wrong way, and that with such projects, the government should act as a medium between all parties involved in an effort to find common ground, which he said, unfortunately, has not been happening.
Nobody wants your apologies. What you want is for the project to stop until you do the right thing. If you know you're doing the wrong thing, then stop it and do the right thing now. Let me start the right thing now. It's not a 30-day contract. It's not a 30-day lease. They say it's 30 years, so what's the rush? Let me get the thing done properly and take all the relevant factors into account, and then you make a decision going forward. That's how responsible governments operate. You know, before they do the work and at the proper assessments, the thing that a civilized country does. Good Lord, you could not do this in probably any other country in the Caribbean. You could not do this. Government is supposed to be between the developer and the interests of the community. But this doesn't seem to be the case. The government seems to be answering for the developer.
Dr. Friday again called on the government to do the right thing in relation to the project, noting that the environmental impact assessment needs to be done instead of relying on what the developer or the company carrying out the project has to say.
It's your quality of life. It potentially can create health hazards for people. And they're not even bothering to assess that. All they're saying, oh, the developer going to have to do this. They're going to have to do this. Who does ever leave, you know, the cat to get the cheese? Normally you have somebody who is going to look at it and say, okay, this is what you need to do. I am going to make sure that you do it. And that is not being done in this case because we don't have an objective standard from an environmental impact study that tells us what are the likely impacts and what are the mitigation measures that and how they might work.
Today, the Ministry of Education handed over learning resources to several schools funded by UNICEF. Speaking at the handing over ceremony, Senior Education Officer Aldea Gums-Dyer spoke of the negative impacts the COVID-19 pandemic and the eruptions of the La Soufrière volcano had on students' learning ability across the country, which had to be addressed by the Recovery of Learning and Emotional Support Program. The Senior Education Officer noted that studies show that providing additional resources that can be integrated in the regular teaching program is a critical step in aiding the recovery of the teaching process. She said in light of this, the Ministry of Education is very pleased to have partners providing both digital and material resources to enhance the learning process for all students.
These resources today that you're seeing here are geared specifically to enhance literacy, numeracy, the teaching of science and music education, as well as foreign languages. At this time, we give recognition to UNICEF for the provision of these material resources. On behalf of the Ministry of Education, we express gratitude for their generosity. We trust that these resources will be used effectively to build the skills among our students and would allow them to continue to learn effectively.
Deputy Chief Education Officer Dixon Finley also expressed gratitude to UNICEF for the resources and encouraged teachers to use them to improve their quality of teaching.
We are happy today to be here because we are going to distribute important resources to the schools. And we have to be, and I'm very grateful to UNICEF for providing these resources. I would want to encourage the teachers to use the resources and to take care of the resources. Sometimes you give resources and they are placed in a cupboard. But we do not want this to happen. We want you to use the resources to improve the quality of your teaching and to ensure that our students benefit. Last night, SVG and myself, we were involved in an orientation session for 140 teachers.
Finley noted that the Ministry of Education is aware that the last 2 years was a difficult period for the students, parents and teachers, and also all stakeholders in the education system. Hence, they will do their best to ensure that the business of education is done in a strategic way that students will no longer suffer.
It is important that as teachers, as stakeholders in education, that we put and we have all hands on deck to ensure that our students are not disadvantaged. There's a lot of work for us to do. We can do it with the support of parents and the community. This pandemic has taught us that we must not take anything for granted. Ms. Dyer mentioned about 60% of our students were regularly online, and there were about 20% who were inconsistent. We have to reach that 20%. We have to do what is possible to ensure that we can put programs in place. So whatever learning loss, they will be able to recover. Education is too important for us to leave it to chance.
The education officers of the various departments in the ministry who received the resources on behalf of the schools thanked UNICEF for the support.
I must say a special thanks to the Ministry of Education and UNICEF for their kind donations of these resources that we have for the Foreign Languages Department. Of course, we have bilingual books
I work in the Curriculum Development Unit in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I will first like to extend my thanks to UNICEF for the donation.
We have site ward cards, and with these cards, they use wards from the Dulce and Fry ward list, and students also have sentences in context.
We have thermometers, we have wire leads, we have stirring rods. There's a lot of test tubes included in the kit. We have measuring cylinders, test tube racks, funnels, reagent bottles, which can also be used as sampling bottles.
The Girl Guides Association of St. Vincent and the Grenadines joins 152 member countries and 10 million members of the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts in celebration of World Thinking Day 2022, the most momentous day on the Girl Guide calendar. The theme for World Thinking Day 2022 is Our World, Our Equal Future, the Environment and Gender Equality. Chief Commissioner of the local association, Laura Brown, said World Thinking Day is celebrated on February 22nd of every year, noting that this year's theme was a result of data collection by the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. It was noted that on International Day of the Girl in 2020, the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts asked Girl Guides and Girl Scouts under the age of 18 from 100 countries what issues they were most concerned about and what they wanted to change about the world. From this data, the number one worry is the environment. And so, the World Thinking Day theme from 2022 to 2024 was coined, Our World, Our Future, for Girl Guides and Girl Scouts to become environmentally conscious leaders. In recognition of World Thinking Day, Bim Bims, Brownies, Brownie Guides, Girl Guides, Ranger Guides, Young Leaders and Guiders wore their uniforms today to mark the special occasion. Additionally, several Brownie packs, guide companies, Ranger units completed cleanup campaigns and tree planting initiatives across the length and breadth of the country. Today, several Girl Guides will present debates on the topic, Girls and Women are Disproportionately Affected by Climate Change. The presentation will be aired on the Facebook page of the SVG Girl Guide Association. The annual Althea Comijong Brownie Public Speaking will be also aired tonight at 8 p.m. on the association's page and will be on the topic Climate Change and Protect the Environment. How has climate change affected our islands and what can we do to preserve the environment? The participants are Abigail O'Garo, Carrie-Ann Graves, Myla Vera, Orissa Baines, Tahira Andrews and Amaria Arundel.